We've also seen images of a young American facing decapitation. This vile display shows a contempt for all the rules of warfare and all the bounds of civilized behavior. It reveals a fanaticism that was not caused by any action of ours and would not be appeased by any concession. The return of tyranny to Iraq would be an unprecedented terrorist victory and a cause for killers to rejoice. Our work in Iraq has been hard. Our coalition has faced changing conditions of war. The swift removal of Saddam Hussein's regime last spring had an unintended effect. Instead of being killed or captured on the battlefield, some of Saddam's elite guards shed their uniforms and melted into the civilian population. These elements of Saddam's repressive regime and secret police have reorganized, rearmed, and adopted sophisticated terrorist tactics. They hope to wear out the patience of Americans, our coalition, and Iraqis before the arrival of effective self-government. The terrorists are likely to become more active and more brutal. There are difficult days ahead, and the way forward may sometimes appear chaotic. By removing a source of terrorist violence and instability in the Middle East, we also make our own country more secure. The United Nations Special Envoy Lakhdar Brahimi is now consulting with a broad spectrum of Iraqis to determine the composition of this interim government. America fully supports Mr. Brahimi's efforts, and I have instructed the Coalition Provisional Authority to assist him in every way possible. Iraqis are proud people who resent foreign control of their affairs. And when they patrol the streets of Baghdad or engage radical militias, they will be fighting for their own country. I thank them for their sacrifices and their duty. Massive strikes against the enemy would alienate the local population and increase support for the insurgency. So we have pursued a different approach. Fallujah must cease to be a sanctuary for the enemy, and those responsible for terrorism will be held to account. Our soldiers have treated religious sites with respect while systematically dismantling the illegal militia. Ordinary Iraqis have marched in protest against the militants. The tactics of our military will be flexible. Commanders on the ground will pay close attention to local conditions. And we will do all that is necessary by measured force or overwhelming force to achieve a stable Iraq. In some cases, the early performance of Iraqi forces fell short. The eventual goal is an Iraqi army of 35,000 soldiers in 27 battalions, fully prepared to defend their country. A new Iraq will also need a humane, well-supervised prison system. Under the dictator, prisons like Abu Ghraib were symbols of death and torture. That same prison became a symbol of disgraceful conduct by a few American troops who dishonored our country and disregarded our values. Detainees at Abu Ghraib will be relocated. Then, with the approval of the Iraqi government, we will demolish the Abu Ghraib prison as a fitting symbol of Iraq's new beginning. At every stage, the United States has gone to the United Nations. Despite past disagreements, most nations have indicated strong support for the success of a free Iraq. And I'm confident they will share in the responsibility of assuring that success. In this time of war and liberation and rebuilding, American soldiers and civilians on the ground have come to know and respect the citizens of Iraq. They're determined never again to live at the mercy of a dictator. There is likely to be more violence before the transfer of sovereignty and after the transfer of sovereignty. The terrorists and Saddam loyalists would rather see many Iraqis die than have any live in freedom. But terrorists will not determine the future of Iraq. History has placed great demands on our country, and events have come quickly. Americans have seen the flames of September the 11th, followed battles in the mountains of Afghanistan, and learned new terms like Orange Alert and Ricin and Dirty Bomb. We've seen killers at work on trains in Madrid, in a bank in Istanbul, at a synagogue in Tunis, and at a nightclub in Bali. We did not seek this war on terror, but this is the world as we find it. History is moving, and it will tend toward hope or tend toward tragedy. They seek the total control of every person and mind and soul. A harsh society in which women are voiceless and brutalized. None of this is the expression of a religion. It is a totalitarian political ideology pursued with consuming zeal and without conscience. We believe it is a tragedy of history that in the Middle East, which gave the world great gifts of law and science and faith, so many have been held back by lawless tyranny and fanaticism. They will reclaim the greatness of their own heritage. America and all the world will be safer when hope has returned to the Middle East. The failure of freedom would only mark the beginning of peril and violence. But my fellow Americans, we will not fail. We will persevere and defeat this enemy and hold this hard-won ground for the realm of liberty. May God bless our country.